Okay, so now we've looked at how to hold a pick, let's compare some picks for the impact they have on your sound. So we've got some different sizes, some different thicknesses, and some different materials as well. To start with, we have a very, very thin pick indeed. This is 0.38 of a millimeter thick. Very, very thin. You can see how easily I can flex that. And this is what it sounds like. Personally, I find this pick far, far too thin. It's kind of like playing with a paintbrush. The tip of it is always behind where you are. Picks are a very personal thing. A lot of players, particularly speed players, tend to favour a thin pick. But personally, I like something with a little bit more weight and a little bit more tone to it. Okay, so let's move up in thickness. This pick is a millimetre thick. It's still plastic like the previous pick. Lot less give in it, and this is what it sounds like. You can hear there a darker tone, certainly more output as well, and less of the clacking noise of the thinner pick. This pick is 1.5 millimeters. It's a slightly different material. It's still plastic, but it's a little bit more tactile. Certainly far less give in this pick now, and this is what it sounds like. Again, a slightly darker tone than the previous pick. Staying with plastic, this is 2 millimeters, and now we're getting into much heavier gauges. Most guitarists seem to settle around the 1 millimeter mark. Much bigger sound, a little bit more bass to it as well. This is a personal favourite. It's quite a small pick, but it's 3 millimeters, and despite its thickness, it's got quite a nice round tone to it. Now we're really stepping up in gauge. This pick is 5 millimeters. It's quite a monster of a pick as far as these things go. More usually favoured by jazz players because they tend to use heavier strings that have got a little bit more fight to them. This one's particularly unusual because it has ridges in it which helps lock it into your skin. And this is what it sounds like. Plenty of output, as you can hear. This pick is resin. Now it looks quite glassy, even possibly slippery, but it's got a surprising amount of grip to it. Quite thick as well, and this is what it sounds like. As you can hear, a lot of output, a little bit brighter than the previous picks. Of course, it doesn't all have to be plastic and resin. You can use slightly more exotic materials. This one is ram's horn. Quite a complex tone there. Now, you can use metal picks. This pick is brass. Totally different tonality compared to the other picks. You can certainly hear the metal of the strings a little bit more clearly. You have to be careful using metal, otherwise you can end up with too focused a sound. But brass being a softer metal, it retains a little warmth. By contrast, we have steel. And you'll hear how this is going to sound. It's quite brash. A lot more top end to it, and particularly when you're playing the wound strings, you can really hear the rasp. So I must admit, I'm not a fan of steel picks. This one is a piece of copper wire, and here's how it sounds. different tone again. Now unusually this one is made of rubber, the selling point of this one being that it doesn't squeak as you cross the strings. Here's how it sounds. Completely different sound to the others. Personally, I find this one a little bit difficult to play with because it's rubber. It does have a lot of flex in it, and so you are fighting it a little bit. It tends to almost stick to the strings. And finally, who says that you have to use picks? You can use anything. This is a 10-cent euro coin, so it's a mixture of metals. Being round, there's no point, and it also has a serrated edge, so if you want to do a little rasping, you can always do that. Brian May of Queen, for example, uses an old English sixpence. So here's how it sounds. Very bright, very focused sound. The kind of pick that you use, the material it's made of, the thickness, it's a very personal thing. So the best advice is go to a music shop. They're usually quite cheap. Buy a selection of them, try them out, and you might find your perfect pick.